going on, everybody? Uncle Filthy, and welcome back to the Media Hub. Join me as I continue to revisit Elm Street. Today we are at one of the fan favorites. A lot of people put this above the first one. Some people have it just below the first film. You know what it is. It's Nightmare on Elm Street 3. Dream Warriors. Let's go.
1, 2, let's come for you. 3, 4, better lock your door. 5, 6, grab your crucifix. 7, 8, gonna stay up late. 9, 10, never sleep. I'm so scared.
So the Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors is a favorite of many people. This is one of the last Nightmare films that I actually got around to seeing. Funny enough, I actually knew the Dawkins song before I saw the film, but I knew the two were connected. This is a film I had known about for a really long time, watching the Nightmare on Elm Street 2 VHS tape. The little trailer for this one, which is a really nice slow burn trailer, but a really nothing burger of a trailer at the same time, was on that cassette. That and the, I think 1 and 4 were also on there, as far as the trailers went. But, you know, this one, it didn't really have a lot to show for itself in that trailer, and that kind of made it one of the ones I was the most curious about. And, you know, as the years went on and I saw 1, 2, saw 5, saw Freddy's Dead, Freddy vs. Jason, I never really was able to get around to seeing 3 and 4. They were kind of the oddballs of the bunch there. This was just a little before the remake came around. I had seen bits and pieces of 3 and 4, whether it was through Freddy vs. Jason or the end title sequence for Freddy's Dead. That was really all I had seen up to that point. Long story short, when I did get around to seeing this one, I had an absolute blast with it. What I think really helps to make this film a contender for, you know, the top of the pack there is the characters in here. You have some of the best written characters in the whole series. You get to know them all just enough to where you know you want them to all survive. Even the ones that you don't get to spend a lot of time with, like Philip and Jennifer. But everybody else, like Kincaid, Joey, Will, Taryn, you want these supporting characters to survive. You have a pretty good feeling Kristen's going to survive because she's the first one we meet. Nancy, you figure would be a safe bet character. Another thing that I think helps with this movie is the sort of balance of it, the fear and the humor.
Who gives a fuck what you think?
The humor doesn't really distract from the horror. It just kind of breaks the ice enough to get you into the next scene feeling not too terribly disturbed, you know? And that balance of humor and horror also parallels itself into Freddy and Robert Englund's performance as Freddy. Again, he's still kind of a scary guy, very scary guy. But he's also a ball breaker. At this point, he's having fun.
Fuck the prime time, bitch! I said, where's the fucking bourbon? Let's get high. What a rush.
Robert's having a good time playing him here. I also think that Nightmare on Elm Street 3 has the best pacing up to this point. The film's not too long, it doesn't overstay its welcome, but it doesn't feel like it's trying to get you from point A to point B to the end of the film. It just feels like it's moving quickly enough to keep you on the edge of your seat, to keep you interested in what's going on. It's just, there's no real dull moments, and there's no moments that really feel like they're here and gone too quickly. And as far as the story to dream balance goes in this one, this might have the perfect balance of forward story progression and the nightmare sequences. This one definitely adds to the lore of Freddy Krueger and Springwood. You sort of get his backstory in a way that doesn't feel like they're beating you over the head with it, but it's just enough to kind of intrigue you a little bit. It almost, I don't want to say that it overly humanizes him, but it lets you know, okay, yeah, this is a guy who almost had no chance to be anything less than a disturbed individual. And, of course, the use of the nightmares throughout this one. I'd almost say that some of the best nightmares in the franchise do occur in this film. They kind of got to a point here where they're like, okay, we can go a little outlandish with it. Like, you've got the Freddy Worm, Philip's Nightmare, The sort of Dream Warriors assemble, Joey getting tongue-tied, hanging over the fire pit, you know, just all this over-the-top shit. It's just really, it's really nice, but they're not using the dreams as the primary driving force like we'll probably see in the next film. We'll see how I feel about that one this time around going forward. But I'd say that the way that the dreams and the story kind of intertwine it helps to keep this film at a pretty solid pace. Nightmare 3 has a pretty good amount of star power. Of course, you've got Patricia Arquette, who's going to become a bit of a star going forward. You've got Lawrence Fishburne in a small, almost thankless role here. He's going to become kind of a big deal in the next decade. Of course, you've got Heather Langenkamp returning as Nancy. She's not done here. She will show up one more time. Of course, Robert Englund. John Saxon, of course, comes back as Donald Thompson. And you've got a guy who's become sort of, I guess you could say a little famous by proxy. He looks like Bill Maher, but he's not Bill Maher. That's sort of the low-hanging fruit joke in this film. It is funny, though, because I was watching House 2 not too long ago, and Bill Maher, for real Bill Maher, is actually in there, and I almost thought that it was Dr. Gordon from Nightmare on Elm Street 3. Priscilla Pointer, of course, the only thing I could think of off the top of my head that she was in that I know is Carrie. Her daughter actually plays her daughter in that, and I thought that was pretty cool. You guys know I like the hard rock heavy metal music. Dokken is one of those bands that I was really digging, especially at the time that I did see this, when I was like between 13 and 17. I was like really into the West Coast metal, the hair metal, if you will. And Dokken were one of the bands that I was really, really taking a liking to. So to open up with Into the Fire, I thought that was pretty cool. And of course the song Dream Warriors playing at the end credits. And that music video is so fucking badass. Yeah, I just wanted to express and share some love for Dokken. One thing that I kind of thought about recently, when watching the first film, I noticed that Nancy asks a question to the doctor at the sleep clinic.
I don't see why you couldn't just give me a pill to keep me from dreaming.
And that got me to thinking, was Nancy in any way responsible for the initial production of Hypnocil? I was looking at the average. It typically takes 10 to 15 years to manufacture a new drug like that, but who's to say they weren't already sort of in the process? Maybe they had it on the back burner. Maybe her experiences in that first film sort of helped to speed along that process. And the only reason why I'm really considering putting some weight into that thought is the fact that the first film is set to take place in 1981. It's said in the second film that 5 years had passed, so that would put part 2 at about 86. It's safe to assume by the time of Dream Warriors we're back in 87. Yeah, looking at the timeline there, I think that there actually is some weight in the idea that Nancy could have helped get Hypnocil produced in the first place. You gotta bear in mind that it's not FDA approved at this point, which kinda can carve, I think, a few years off of the average statistic in time there. But it was something that popped up in my mind that I thought was worth pointing out to you guys. If you guys really dug Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors, which I would imagine you do, one I suggest you check out is Bad Dreams. It's in a lot of ways very similar to it. You actually have Jennifer Rubin, who plays Taryn in this film. She's the lead girl in Bad Dreams, and like I said, it's pretty similar to Nightmare on Elm Street 3, where she is at the sort of psych ward. She has the psycho invading her dreams, but the context around it is completely different. Don't want to go too into that one right now. I did do a review on Letterboxd for it, but maybe I'll talk about that one on here one day. But if you can't get enough of Dream Warriors, I'd definitely recommend checking that out. You know how sometimes you want to go against the grain of what everyone thinks on a certain topic? Part of me wants to say, oh, Dream Warriors is overrated. I honestly can't say that. I really find myself appreciating this one for all the value that it's given. Anytime that somebody says that this is their favorite Nightmare on Elm Street film, I'm in no position to question them. It's an argument I'm not about to make. I think that in a lot of ways this is the quintessential Nightmare on Elm Street. As I said before, it does have that balance of the humor and the horror, where You're a little more on the horror side, but you have just enough humor to take the edge off. Same thing in Robert Englund's performance. He's not hamming it up. He's not chewing the scenery like we'll see in a couple films later on. If you're not big on Nightmare 2, which, I'm sorry, Nightmare 2 is absolutely fucking awesome. If you don't like it, I get it. But I think that A Nightmare on Elm Street 3 totally works as sort of a direct sequel to the first film, because it doesn't directly reference anything from Part 2. Yeah, fuck, man. Weston Hills as a setting is actually really creepy. Anytime you have sort of a hospital, especially a psychiatric ward, where there's really no way out unless you work there, usually it's the patients who are in danger in these kind of movies. I think it absolutely works as a setting, and you don't have to forego using the nightmare house because that will exist in your nightmares. Definitely makes for a lot of fun there. Now, before we continue on and get on out of here for the day, we're gonna take a quick jump back to 2020, look at my old Nightmare on Elm Street 3 video. Let's see how that holds up. Roll the filthy features. Favorite dream sequence, would it be cheating if I said the whole final act? When Nancy, Kristen, Taryn, Will, and Kincaid have to go into Dreamland to save Joey and fight Freddy. Because again, I really like the way that it's interwoven with John Saxon and Dr. Bill Maher, who are getting ready to bury Freddy's remains. So yeah, the climax dream sequence, that whole last, how long is that, like 30 minutes or more? That whole last act is just fucking phenomenal. Spotting Bob Shea. So, there is no Bob Shea. There is no Spotting Bob Shea. Sorry. For the Freddy Quipper, there's some good one-liners to choose from in here. This is when they're still writing good one-liners for Freddy, but they're not obnoxious, and they're all pretty well done. Like we have, what's wrong, Joey feeling tongue-tied? What a rush. I don't believe in fairy tales, kid. Oh, obviously, welcome to primetime, bitch. And even I said, where's the fucking bourbon? Like, out of those, like, those are all, like, top-tier Freddy one-liners there. And, I don't know, I might get a little bit of shit for this, but where's the fucking bourbon is probably my favorite of Freddy's quips in this film. But yeah, man, as I said before, Nightmare on Elm Street 3 is absolutely the quintessential nightmare film. It can be argued that this or the first film are the best. Hell, you could even throw New Nightmare in there. This one, I think, does just about everything right. Again, I stress the balance in this film. It's very well balanced, very well paced. You might have Robert's most solid performance as Freddy Krueger. You have Nancy, who's definitely a badass at this point. You've got other characters who are going to help carry the film, so there's never a dull moment here. This is a film that does not fail to keep you entertained at any point. And again, I can see why anybody would have this as their favorite. It makes complete sense. There might be times where I feel like this is the best one, but you guys know I'm kind of a Nightmare 1 sort of fanatic, so I don't know, we'll see how that comes on come the ranking on these. At the end of the day, guys, I can only give A Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors 4.5 tongue ties for Joey out of 5. So that was my look back at A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, guys. This one was a lot of fun to revisit, just watching the film, talking about it again. It just reminds me how much I enjoy this one. It's a really great Nightmare on Elm Street film, as I said. Strike that. It's just a great horror film at the end of the day. One that I absolutely enjoy, and one that, you know, if I just want to pick a Nightmare on Elm Street film at random, it might not be the first one I go to, but anytime that I'm marathoning them and I come across this one, I ask myself, why don't I go to it as often as I feel like I should? I don't know, that's a good question. Will I fix that in the future? Stay tuned. But all the same, I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Do what you do with the icons down there. That'll help keep you up to date. Join me next time as we continue the journey down Elm Street. we are going to be looking at Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master. Have my thoughts improved on that? Well, you gotta stay tuned to find out. See you in the next one.